yesterday, so we will continue now with the slide 20 about the energy equation for a fluid system equipped with pump. Before we start, anyone has questions about yesterday content or material? No? Okay. Hold on, let me check the MS Team first. Okay, so it has been started. Okay, so again, we go back to the main equation that will be used for the pump calculation, which is an energy equation and or Bernoulli. So previously you already learned with power one when we have two different points. Let's say that's the source and this is the destination. And given the requirement of the process, for example, you have total length of the pipeline. Let's say the length would be 100 meter, and it consists of fitting, control valve, and a lot of other things. So there will be a pressure drop in the system, in the pipeline and fitting. And then there will be some difference in terms of the height. So for example, using this reference point, so if that's the difference in elevation, so that will be the height that would have to be provided by the pump. Okay, so if we look at this energy equation, P1 and P2 that refers to the pressure of the source and the pressure of the destination. If you have something like this, that means it's an open system or open tank. Open tank means you can assume it's to be 1 ATM. But if it's a closed vessel, then you can't assume it's to be a 1 ATM. Okay, so if it's a closed vessel, then it has to be stated. For example, the P2 over here is like 5 ATM, for example. So the delta P now becomes exists, and the pump has to provide those differential pressure. And then this is the velocity. U is a velocity, that means it's expressed in meter per second. But usually you can assume V1 is equal to V2 as long as the diameter doesn't change. The pipe diameter remains constant. Okay, so that can be neglected if the diameter remains constant. And then the Z, this is the elevation. Okay, the delta H, and it is the friction. Can anyone help me to observe which part of the system would results in pressure drop? So obviously you will have one straight pipeline. Okay, so that will be straight pipeline. What will be the other components of pressure drop calculation given the illustration provided?
The fitting, sir.
Okay, so specifically, what will be the fitting in this case?
The elbow, is that right?
How many elbows?
2 elbows, sir.
Okay, what else?
The pump itself.
Okay.
Is that included, sir?
Well, not really, because pump is, the purpose is to increase the pressure. So you don't really have a pressure drop in pump. So if you have pressure drop, that will give you a trouble, because actually the objective is the opposite, to provide the pressure drop, to compensate the pressure drop. Okay, any other idea from the others? What would be the other components that would result in pressure drop in this illustration? Is that it or no? There will be other component.
Is it the tank, sir?
Sorry?
The tank.
The tank? What would be the pressure drop in the tank? So now I'm asking about the pressure drop components. Pressure drop components. Yes, something related with the tank, but what would be the main part of the tank that would result in a pressure drop?
Sir, is it the fitting between the pipe and the tank?
Yes, so it's called sudden expansion and sudden contraction. Has that been explained by Pak Wawan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so don't forget about these two parts. Okay, so in this point, that will be the sudden contraction part, right? Because you can assume the diameter of the tank is very big, and when it has to enter the pipe at a small diameter, it would result in a sudden contraction pressure drop. So let me just put sudden contraction, and in this part, that will be the sudden expansion. From a small pipeline diameter, it will burst into a very big tank, so it will result in a certain pressure drop. So don't forget about this component. So later when you, I think this is this part of your module 1 exam or no? The
No,
pressure
sir.
drop in the pipeline?
Maybe just pipeline, sir, but
Okay.
the elbows not yet, sir.
Okay, so yeah, so you can imagine that for the second model exam, I will say that one of the main typical question would be to evaluate the pressure drop of the whole system, and then the pump to compensate those requirements. Okay, so this is a very typical case, and you have to be able to do it properly within times. So please practice to perform this kind of calculation. So when we add a pump into the system, we add to reference point. So 3 would be the, okay, this is actually a typo. It's not a section, it's a suction, okay? Suction, and the exit will be the discharge of the pump. So now you can see that we just have one extra component. So that would be the reverse or the ideal pump work. Okay, it's not the irreversible, it's not the actual, but it's the reversible ideal pump work. Okay, so and you can see that this is what would be the unit if it's expressed. Okay, it's actually already given joule per kilogram. So make sure that all the parts are equal. So if you calculate the friction factor as a joule per kilogram, then you can also state the pump duty as a joule per kilogram. And then if you multiply everything, if you multiply by kilogram per second, for example, of the feed rate, then you will get joule per second, which is watt. Okay, so please be aware with this unit conversion because it's very common for a pump to be expressed as a watt. It's not very common to be expressed in joule per kilogram, but you can play around with that statement just by looking at the unit conversion. Okay. So again, if we move the work of the pump into the left side of the equation, so now we have the work of the pump would be provided to compensate the friction. So that's the friction, and then to compensate the delta elevation, and then to compensate the delta pressure between two sources, two points, for example, and that would be the delta velocity. Okay, very straightforward. So you just essentially add one more steps of calculation compared to the previous topics about the pressure drop. And if it's express everything in head form, that means we express in meter, then again you just need to divide by rho g for the pressure. So it's now P is Pascal, right? Pascal is Newton per meter square meter divided by the rho g. Now you get everything expressed as meter. So that's the pump head. Okay, and the pump head itself. Okay, so look at this. Sorry. So the pump work per G itself can be expressed as the head of the pump. Okay, head of the pump. So that's the HP. But head of the pump again only refers to 0.3 versus 0.4, which is the suction versus the distance. So don't forget to account those distance between 1 and 3 and between 4 and 2. Okay, so now the pump can be expressed in head form in meter as head of the friction, delta elevation, delta pressure, and delta velocity. Any questions? Any questions?
So far, it's okay, sir.
Okay, I hope it's all right. And the concept is very straightforward. It's the calculation that requires a lot of steps. So hopefully you can understand the concept. So now it's just about how to practice the calculation so you can not easily be deceived and take everything into calculation. Okay, so now this is the head of the pump calculation again. Okay, that's not really good. That's 0.3 and 0.4 because 1 is actually the source and 2 is actually the destination. We have to be consistent with that. So the linear velocity is assumed to be constant in many cases, assuming constant pipe ID. So if we can make sure that the velocity doesn't change, if we can make sure that the pipeline diameter doesn't change, then we can emit this part. Sorry, what happens? We can emit this part if D remains constant. Okay, so head loss is head loss in suction point and discharge point. Combine, okay, again, just imagine the previous illustration. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. So if we're talking about the pressure drop in whole of the system, so the head loss here, HF, refers to total delta P between 1 and 2, okay, between the source and the destination. But that can be splitted into 2 fractions, okay? So it can be split into 2 fractions. Now I will split into HFS and HFD. If it's HFS, that means it's the total delta P between 1 and 3. HFD, that would be the total delta P between 4 and 2. Okay, so 1 and 3 means everything between the source and the suction point of the pump. 4 and 2 means everything between the exit point of the pump to the destination. Sometimes that could be helpful when we perform more advanced calculation in pump, because especially the suction part would be very, very critical. Again, I told you yesterday that we want to prevent any cavitation. We want to prevent any cavitation. We want to prevent any vapor forms in the inlet part of the inlet part of the pump. So the HFS especially is very important when we want to derive the net positive suction head calculation, NPSH calculation. Okay, so if we break it down, the HF now becomes HFS and HF discharge. So now combining into the previous formula at the top of this slide, now we get the HFS, HFD, Z discharge, ZS, and delta P in the pump. Okay, so that's the pump. So now we can classify everything related with the discharge pump of the discharge part of the pump. So now that's the delta, the Z, the elevation of the pump. So that's the elevation of the pump. Okay, what's wrong? So the elevation of the pump, the pressure, discharge pressure. Okay, that's the discharge pressure. And directly at the exit point of the pump, that's the suction pressure. Okay, and it's not the same with the destination and the source pressure, because there will be a pressure drop between 1 and 3 and between 4 and 2. So if we're just talking about the pump, now we can just compare the 4 versus 3 point. Okay, so the work of the pump, the head of the pump, that will be the total head generated between 3 and 4. Okay, between reference point 3 and 4. And again, if we just combine everything into the suction part and the discharge part, now the total pump head can be expressed as simple as the total head in the discharge minus the total head in the suction. Okay, I would like to check you or check your understanding. Look at this reference point, okay? 1, 3, 4, 2. Can anyone help me to rank the total head in all 4 points? In point 1 until 4, from the smallest total head up until to the highest. What would be the rank? Which point has the smallest total head up until the highest total head between 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Three should have the lowest, isn't it? Isn't that right, sir?
Okay, 3, and then? So 3 must be the lowest. That's correct.
Yeah.
That must be the smallest one. Okay, that must be the smallest one.
Then 1, sir.
Okay, likely 1.
Then,
and then
point 2.
2.
Then point 4.
And 4. Okay, that's the likely to be the order of the head. Okay, that should be the highest at the exit point of the pump. That will be the highest total head pressure, and then it will lose some pressure drop again because of the pressure drop between 4 to 2. Okay. Okay, so now we will look into a couple of different variations. Remember, yesterday we talked about the performance curve of the centrifugal. Now that is, I think yesterday it's provided as a parabolic type of performance curve. But the main point in this one is, so now the straight line, that will be the, okay, what's wrong? The straight line, that's the performance curve. So you see that in the performance curve, if the volumetric of the pump increase, then the pressure generated, the head generated, will typically decrease. Okay. So if you have 1 cubic meter per second versus 2 cubic meter per second, Usually at higher flow rate, you will get a smaller head generated by the pump. Okay, but now you can also check the operational pipeline curve. Okay, which is going into opposite direction. So this is about the total delta P of the system. Okay, total delta P of the system. That includes the delta P in pipe plus the delta elevation plus the delta P between source to destination. Okay, destination. So you can imagine that if we have a higher flow rate at same pipeline system, that means assuming that the length remains constant, the diameter remains constant. Of course, if we flow a higher amount of fluid, it will result in a higher pressure drop. Okay, so the order probably start, we increase the, okay, I will not use, okay, I will use V to be consistent. If we increase the cubic meter per second, we will increase the linear velocity because the area remains constant, because the diameter remains constant. And when the linear velocity increase, that will result in a higher delta P. Okay, delta P in the pipeline will increase. The fanning calculation, Moody calculation, that will increase. So that's like the trend when we plot the variation of the pump curve versus the operational pipeline curve. So the important point over here is you find the intersection. Okay, so the intersection between the pipeline curve and the performance curve, that will be the balance of the pressure of the system. Okay, that would be the balance of the pressure. That means if it's unregulated, you don't have control valve, you don't have anything, you just flow it naturally. Okay, if it's going to be flow naturally, that will be your actual flow rate. Okay, that will be your actual flow rate. So sometimes it's a very complex operation in a multiple pipeline network system. So we have to talk about the pressure balance of the system. Okay, because of some variations in some conditions, it will affect that the flow rate gradually start to increase or gradually starts to decrease. So again, the main point in this slide is you have to understand the intersection between the pipeline curve and the performance curve will be the balance where the actual flow rate will be found if the system is not controlled or it's not regulated. Okay, and this is especially important when we want to look the performance curve of the pump. So later in the slide 30 something, I think I have some example about this, and it starts with the concept of the intersection between the performance curve and the pipeline curve. Okay, so this is actually a more advanced performance curve design. Okay, this is in series configuration. That means if you have a pump A and then it will be used to go into the pump B, how let's say the A and B, and let's say that the pump A and B are identical. Okay, what will happen? So you can see that that would be the one pump operation. Okay, that would be the one pump operation. That means that only refers if you have one type of pump A identical with the previous case. It will give you the this performance in the performance curve. Okay, and then you look. So this is the pump curve. Okay, that is the pump curve. And then look at the system. This is the what we say in the previous slide as the operational pipeline curve. Okay, that is the operational pipeline curve. Okay, see the intersection. Okay, so between the operational pipeline curve and one pump curve, you see that the intersection is over here. That means that would be your natural flow rate if you only use one pump in single configuration. Okay, V1 pump. Oh, sorry, V1 pump, and more or less that would be your head for one pump. Okay. Now, what would happen if you put the second pump identical configuration? So that what it means as two pumps series. Okay. So again, that's the total head. Total head means the delta P in the pump. So if you have P1 and P2, now you send at the same pressure P1, will it results at the same discharge point at the first pump? Will it double in linear order or in polytropic order or in any other order? Okay, so that's the concept of this slide. You see that when we install the second pump, now, okay, okay. Please observe this trend, okay? That's the head of the pump generated at each. Okay, let me change the color to make it clearer. Okay, at certain flow rate, that would be the head pressure generated by the pipeline. At a smaller flow rate, it will result the highest head generated. At the small flow rate, for example, at this point, that would result in a lower head generated by the pump. Okay, for one pump. Now, please compare the blue line with, let me use the green one now, at the same flow rate. Okay, head generated by two pumps, and then head generated by two pumps. What trends do you observe? At the same flow rate, what would happen? So let's say that's V1, let's say that's V2. Compare the blue line and the green line.
Twice the total head, sir.
It's even more precise than that. You can say that that will double the blue line. Okay, exactly double the blue line, to be precise. Okay, so if your head generated by one pump, let's say that's 10 meter, that would result in 20 meter when you put two pumps together. Okay, so if that's 4 meter, that will give you 8 meter for two pumps. Okay, understood? Using this configuration, but you don't produce P3. Okay, P3 will not be exactly 2 times P2. Okay, P3 will not be exactly 2 times P2. P2 is from here. Okay, it's not gonna work like that. Okay, because it's about the balance pressure. It's about the intersection. Okay, why? Because again, you have to check where is the operational pipeline curve. Okay, now it will intersect the two pump at this point. Okay, so now That's my V2 pump. Okay, and at V2 pump, see that the head of two pumps are not going to be exactly double the, so head of two pump, HP for two pumps, will not be identical with 2 times the HP for one pump. Why? Because again, at the same capacity, at the same length, at the same diameter, if you flow a higher amount of flow rate, it will result in a higher pressure drop. It's about the balance, okay? So why? Because the volume change, because the volume flow rate change from V1 to V2, okay? So initially it flows at about V1. When you put two pumps together at series configuration, it's uncontrolled. It will naturally increase the flow rate of the system up until V2 pump. And in results, you will not get double the head generated by the pump. Okay, that will be the case if you put it together as a series configuration. What if now we have 3 pumps? Okay, so same concept apply. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so again, it's not gonna be linear at all. Okay, now you just have to add the third line over here. You see that the HP for 3 pumps will triple the HP for 1 pump, the blue line. But when it intersects with the operational curve, that will be the V for 3 pump. Naturally, the flow rate will increase. It will able to flow higher amount of flow rate. Okay. Any questions about this slide?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do we relate all those 1 pump, 2 pump, and 3 pump with the system curve, sir? Like,
What do you mean?
what does it actually means at the system curve? What does it show, in terms of the head?
Again, the total, the operational pipeline curve, it's again the same thing with the previous slide. It tells you about the total delta P of the system. That means the pressure drop in the pipeline, pressure drop in the fitting, delta elevation, and the difference between source and destination point. Okay, go back to the energy equation. Okay, so if we go to the energy equation, which one? All of this part is the operational pipeline curve. That's the operational pipeline curve. So the friction, the delta elevation, the delta P in the source versus destination, the delta velocity, all of them are the operational pipeline curve. So naturally, when the kilogram per second increase, all of this within the purple rectangular will increase. So this part, this calculation, you try to calculate at V1, you calculate at V2, you calculate at V3, different flow rate. Of course, it will give you a higher pressure drop when you flow a higher amount of fluid. Okay. So this is the case where it's not controlled by a certain regulator or a control valve. You just flow it naturally. The system, the operational pipeline curve, again, that will be the resultant of the delta P in the pipeline, delta P in the source versus the destination, and the delta elevation. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Now, what happens if you have a parallel configuration? So if you have 1 pump, then that's very simple. Again, only look like that. Now, if you have two pumps in parallel, okay, two pumps in parallel, both in operation. So it's not about the operation and standby. All of them are operated. And then you have three pumps. It will behave differently with the series configuration. So this is what the real industrial application will look like. The process engineers will have to consider a lot of different variation and which one will match the purpose of this transfer. Okay, so again, the one pump, that's the simple one. Okay, so let's say pump A, if only one pump, that would be the pump curve. Okay, and again, that is the system operational pipeline curve. Same thing with before. You find the intersection. Again, the intersection will give you the balance of the pressure. That would be your V1 naturally or uncontrolled. Okay, and that would be your head 1. Okay, now what happens when you, so this is done. Now what happens if you use the second pump in parallel configuration? In parallel, it's not about doubling the head generated. Okay, so again, if in the previous case I make a straight vertical line for one pump, HP for one pump, now you don't extend this vertical line to double the head generated. Why? It doesn't work that way if it's in parallel configuration. So instead, so if this P1, that is P1 and that is P2, it will still enters both pump at P1. So actually pump A, so just forget that one. Pump A and pump B will, if it's identical pump, it will result in the same delta head. It will result in the same delta pressure generated by the pump. Okay. What will actually happen is your flow rate decrease. Okay. So if this is your V1, now this is your V1. Now it's just you have V1. Now you have V1 per 2 going into pump A, and then you have V1 per 2 going into pump B. What do you think will happen if you split 50% of your feed going into one pump? What would happen to the pump curve? Will it result in a higher head or will it result in a smaller head?
Higher head, sir.
Yep, that's correct. So one pump now will result in a higher head. Okay, it will result in a higher pump head. Why? Because using the same pump, you just receive 50% of the feed. That means you can generate a higher pump head. That means you can deliver at a higher discharge pressure. Okay, that's why when you look at this point, now the intersection will be at this line. But again, it's not completely double the previous case, the V1. Okay, why? Because now it's not actually V1. Okay, there will be the balance that now it is actually the flow rate. When you install two pumps together, you will be able to transfer a higher amount of feed. Instead of V1, now you have V2, which is higher than V1. So instead of V1 per 2, now what you get is V2 per 2. And this one is V2 per 2. Okay, but instead of P2, now you can deliver P3, which is higher than P2. Okay, same thing with the three pumps. Now you deliver from the same pressure. Instead of V1 and V2, now you will get V3, which is higher than V2. And then now you get V3 per 3 to pump A, V3 per 3 to pump B and V3 per 3 to pump C. All of them combined together, it will give you P4, which is bigger than P3. Okay, so now the intersection of the 3 pumps will be at this point. So that's the V3. So again, it's to increase your, I would say, your engineering sense. This is very straightforward for one pump, but a lot of application requires multiple series or parallel. So at least you have a basic sense how it will affect your pipeline and pump performance. Okay, any questions about these two slides?
Sir, I have one more question there.
Yep, go ahead.
If, for example, we use, for example, for parallel, this one is for one pump, or like 2 pumps, for example, but we decrease the volume, the volumetric flow rate, like intentionally, sir. What will happen to it, sir?
Okay, so that's the keyword. Okay, that's the keyword. You intentionally decrease the flow rate. Okay, that's what I mean by it's not a natural uncontrolled system anymore. Okay, so when you have something like this, okay, a valve, that's when you intentionally disturb the balance of the system, right? You intentionally disturb the balance of the system. So now what happens if you have one pump, but you have a valve over here, and then you have one valve, and then you have 2 pumps. Okay. Compare this disturbed case, okay? So it's now disturbed. You add more restriction or restricted case, okay? Restricted case versus the natural case. So this is the natural case. So again, the main difference is only about the valve, right? So you control the flow rate in the plant using a valve. That's why it's called control, to control the flow rate of the system, for example. So what is the purpose of this valve? Again, if we talk about the Bernoulli equations, okay, if you put the Bernoulli equation, so you have the energy friction, and then you have the other component as P1 versus P2, pressure of the source versus the destination, and then you have the elevation, and then last you have the velocity. It must be related to one of these 4 compounds. The addition of the restriction, the addition of the valve will affect one of these 4 components of pressure drop calculation. Which one is it?
Velocity, sir.
Okay, it could affect the velocity.
Or the friction as well.
It will not affect the elevation, right?
Yeah, it won't.
It doesn't affect the elevation. It doesn't affect the pressure in the source and the destination. Correct?
Yes, sir.
If it's atmospheric tank, it's still gonna be an atmospheric tank in the beginning. If it's a 5 bar pressurized tank at the end, it's still gonna be 5 bar vessel at the end. So the main manipulation will be in the friction. Okay, the main manipulation will be in the friction, especially if it's not 100% open valve. Okay, like it's really called choke. Okay, it's really called choking. So when you close down the valve opening, choking by 20%, that's like the real term in a plant. You choke the valve 20%. That means you will reduce the flow rate. At the same time, you will increase the restriction and the friction in the system. Okay. Now, what will happen to the friction? If you perform a choking, okay, choking of the valve, when choking happens, the friction will increase, right? What will happen to the system operational curve? Will it remain at this black line of system operational pipeline curve? Or will it shift upward or downward? What do you think?
Will it shift upwards, sir?
Okay, what the other guys think? So I tell you that when we choke the system, the EF increase, right? That means at the same flow rate, the total system operational pipeline curve will increase. Okay, so let's say now you have new balance of the choke operational pipeline curve. Okay, let's say that's the choke pipeline curve. How will it affect the balance of the pressure of the system? Will it remains V1, V2, and V3, or you will get a new balance of the pressure system? See the intersection. How it changed the intersection between the pipeline curve and the operational curve. Okay, now actually the intersection will be at this point. Now that's the V1 choke. That will be your V2 choke. And that will be the V3 choke, right? That will be your V3 choke. See the difference between V1 choke versus V1 natural. So when Kevin said that you put the valve to reduce the flow rate, that's actually happening because the intersection shift. The intersection, the balance between the pipeline curve and the pump curve shift. Okay, because you add new restriction, you add more pressure drop, you add more friction. That means the operational pipeline curve increase. So now the control or the choke flow rate give you the new balance. That will be your smaller flow rate happening in the restricted case. Okay, even when now what in the most extreme case, when the opening of the valve, now becomes 0%, what would happen? So this will be your 0% pipeline curve. You will not have anything flows. Okay, it stops. Not only because it's closed. Yes, it's closed. You don't allow any opening the flow to increase. But at the same concept, at 0% opening of the valve, you make the pipeline operational curve becomes a vertical that will not allow anything to flow past the valve. Okay, is that answering the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so let me check. Okay, let me finish these three slides, okay, because I hope this is very important. And by next Thursday, we can go directly to the example, okay? So this is very important calculation about net positive suction head. Again, the concept is to prevent any cavitation. Cavitation will start when you have a vapor exist in the pump inlet. You don't want that to happen. You want to prevent any vaporization. So again, this is the source, or in the previous case, we set that as 0.1 as the source. Okay. So be careful. When we're talking about cavitation, we want to make sure that no vapor form in 0.3. Okay. No vapor in 0.3. So sometimes the engineer becomes careless, okay? Why? Because they said that, okay, I already make sure that the source is completely a liquid. Okay, if I provide the pump feed as a liquid, I don't have any risk of cavitation. But that's not really the case. Why? Because at point 1, even if all of the fluid inside the tank is a liquid, you can imagine that along the way between 1 and 3, before it reach the pump, it could happen some vaporization. Vaporization can occur before it reach the pump. There would be some risk of vaporization. Why? A lot of things. Okay, and the main thing is again about the pressure drop. When the pressure drop and it reach the vapor pressure, it become vaporized. Okay, so that's the keyword over here. If P of the section, okay, no, okay, this one is actually the important one. If P3 is equal to PV, P3 is over here. Okay, if P3 is equal to PV, that's the limit when liquid start to vaporize. Okay, and P3 could be lower than PS. As we observed before, there could be some pressure drop along the way. Okay, so we have to make sure that the pressure drop between the source and the pump is small enough that vaporization will not occur. Okay, so when P3 is equal to PV, we have cavitation. So in simple terms, we can express as NPSH, net positive suction head. If it's positive, if P suction is higher than PV, that means it's likely to be safe the liquid to be completely received in the pump as a liquid. There will be no vaporization. Okay. Again, just use the energy equation. Just use the energy equation, but not between the source and the destination. So now between point 1 and point 3. Okay, point 1 versus point 3. Point 3 is the suction part of the pump. Okay, delta P 1 versus 3, elevation, and the EFS. Okay, not the total friction, but only friction in suction part. Okay, that's why the S matters in suction part of the pump. Okay, you solve this equation. Now it comes to the NPHH calculation. As long that you can make sure that the PS minus PV per rho G plus minus, okay, this is important, plus minus ZS. Sometimes it's plus, sometimes it's minus, as will be explained in the next slide. Minus the HFS, that's the friction in the suction part of the pump. As long as it's positive, you can prevent cavitation. Okay, there will be no vaporization. If you can make sure that the left part of this equation higher than 0. To be more precise, sometimes, so that is called the NPSH available. Okay, so in more precise, sometimes the 0 will be replaced by the NPSH required. Okay, that's required. The concept, but it's still the same. You want to make sure that at point 3, the pressure doesn't reach the vapor pressure when it starts to vaporize. Okay, so let me close this class by using this slide. Okay, case A and case B. Okay, so see the location of the pump is different. It's below tank 1. That's above tank 1. Okay, and that really matters. That will affect the energy equation of the system. Just think very simply about this. Okay, if you have something like a valve over here, and then you open the valve, will it be different between these two cases? Which one will flow naturally? Case A or case B?
A, sir.
Okay, it will flow naturally. It will flow naturally in a way that helps to prevent cavitation. It will help you to prevent cavitation. Okay, it will help you to prevent cavitation. Why? In terms of the notation, check the difference. If the pump is below tank 1, then you use positive ZS. Elevation between top of the tank with pump. But if it's above tank 1, the notation has to be negative. Okay, why? Because when you put it that way, the pump is above tank 1, there will be higher restriction before it reach the suction point of the pump. So more restriction, higher chance of vaporization. Okay, higher chance of vaporization. So now, why would we even consider the case B, if that's the question? Okay, first, please just understand that the position of the tank versus the pump will affect the notation of the ZS. That's very important. If it's below tank, plus ZS. If it's above tank 1, then it's minus ZS. But now that means the case B will have a higher chance of cavitation. Why would we even consider this system? Just imagine your home again. Just imagine your well water in your home. Okay. If you live in Bandung, I think you will be quite lucky if you have 20-meter well water pump. Okay. If you live in Jakarta, I think it's gonna be even worse. 30-meter, 40-meter, you start to get well water. Okay. Now, can you imagine you put the pump underground for well water? So now it's like another 5 meter below the well. Okay. So you have to install a pump underground in your home 25 meter. And then suddenly you have a trouble with the pump and you want to fix it, but you can't because the pump is not in the kitchen, it's not in the bathroom, but it's in the underground. It's not practical. Okay, in a lot of operation, it's really not practical. So you put the tank above ground at the ground level of your home, for example. So it's easy to be operated, it's easy to be controlled, it's easy to be monitored, it's easy to be maintained. But the pump will have a higher load because it just doesn't deliver the water, but it has to suck the water. Okay, that's why it's called suction. 30 meters from the well, it suck the water to the pump and then deliver. So a lot of practical considerations, we have to use this case B if necessary. Okay, I think the time is up, so I will not continue. Any question about the NPSH?
It's clear so far, sir.
It's clear, okay? So in the next session, in Thursday, we will use the example, but I want you to practice first, so we will not use a lot of time to perform those practice, okay? So please download the content, download the slide, and then go to this example, slide 33, okay? Slide 33, try to practice before Thursday session, okay? Before Thursday. The concept is simple, but it involves a lot of calculation, okay? And even you can follow the guideline that is provided in slide 34, 35, and 36. It looks simple, but requires a lot of time if you haven't practiced well, okay? Calculate the pressure drop, calculate the energy equation, and so on and so on. So try before Thursday session. Okay, Okay, I think that's it. So sorry, the time is up. So I'll see you on Thursday. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pak Anggit.